And welcome back to another edition of the Twins Wrap with Dick Bremer, the television voice of the Minnesota Twins. I am Derek Hanson. It's brought to you by Jefferson Lines. Dick Bremer from Bally Sports. I got to get used to that, Dick. But Bally Sports North now. It's been Fox Sports North for so long, but now Sinclair has officially changed the name. So I think we're all adjusting to that.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while for that to roll off our tongues, but eventually that'll happen too. We've had a lot of name changes over the years. From Midwest Sports Channel to Fox Sports North and now Bally Sports North.
Yep, that's for sure. And you've been there for all of it. So that is, you've certainly have seen a lot during that time too, haven't you?
Yeah, I got a lot of different golf shirts with different logos on them.
Well, as someone who's worked at many different radio stations in this town, trust me, I'm right there with you. I think, boy, tough one today. It's another one of those woulda, coulda, shoulda things.
Yeah, the Twins have won 3 games, 2 that they've lost. You could very easily argue they should have won the 2 that they lost, but those things happen in baseball. I think what we found out, unfortunately, is that the home team has a huge advantage in these extra inning games when a runner gets to second base. And that's kind of what happened both in Milwaukee on opening day and again here today. Twins had their chances, though. They got their runner at second base, and Cruz followed with a single. First and third, and nobody out, but they couldn't get the right sequence of at-bats to get that go-ahead run.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, and I think you and I said this last year when we, I can understand a shortened season doing the starting the guy at the second base, but boy, I wish they'd wait till the 12th inning, not the 10th. I think that would be a better way to go. But I could understand that. I hate right away in the 10th doing it.
Yeah, and I think there's hopefully a chance that that's where this will evolve and settle at. When it happened on opening day, of course, people's opinions of the rule tend to change depending on the outcome on your team. And I was just reminded that, it's an okay way to win a ball game if you win it that way, but it's a terrible way to lose because, my goodness, Randy Dobnak on Friday threw 3 pitches and the game was over with, and Robles struggled, looked like he was poised to get out of the jam and send us to the 11th inning, but it didn't happen. I wasn't a big fan of it last year, and given the way the season started, I'm no more of a fan of it now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Boy, it's one of those things we always talk about as fans. The guy who comes back to haunt you, and there's probably not a nicer guy on the planet, but Robbie Grossman, he does it again for the Tigers. It's nice to see him playing well.
Yeah, it was inevitable that at some point in this Detroit series, a former Twin would do something against the Twins. Grossman drove in 2 with a couple of base hits, and then Baddoo, the Twins prospect, who drafted by the Tigers, finished the ball game. But my goodness, Wilson Ramos, Jonathan Scope, and I'm missing somebody, but Nico Goodrum, they're all from the Twins organization, and they're all playing key roles for the Tigers now.
Let's talk a little bit about just kind of how this, the health of this team. Unfortunately, not 7 minutes into the ballgame, we have a situation here where we lose our third baseman again, and I don't know how Donaldson. That's just got to be frustrating for him. And Byron Buxton's been out sick, and then he comes in late in the game and extends it to extra innings. So hopefully these guys can get on, all healthy. That's always a concern with this ball club.
That's what I think the consensus was last year, that it was really a successful year for the Twins because they were not able to put out the lineup that they had imagined very often last year. And now, to your point, Donaldson leaves after a half inning. Cruz has to be a pinch hitter, not a designated hitter in the Milwaukee series. Buxton has to leave with some digestive issues that thankfully cleared up in 48 hours. Arise yesterday left with an upper digestive issue and was back on the lineup today. So the good news is it doesn't look like any of it is serious, including Donaldson's hamstring injury. He took some batting practice today and will ramp things up in the hopes that he'll only miss a week and a half.
Has he said much about, these guys, he's a $21 million a year guy, and I'm sure he wants to be out there all the time, and he's had troubles with his calves. And, is there any different approach he can take training-wise? I'm sure it's driving him nuts.
Well, he has admitted, even before the injury came up, that he is changing his running style to take some of the pressure off his calves, and it does put more pressure on the hamstrings. And wouldn't you know it, that's what it didn't blow out, but that's what tightened up on them on opening day. So, it's one thing if you want to change and can change how you're doing something to relieve some stress and strain on a body part, but if it puts more stress on a different body part and that ends up giving you problems, well, you really haven't gained much.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about my body, it just knows my big belly is stressing my back, and that's all it knows. So
you lost your obliques about 30 years ago, like I did, huh?
Well, you're in better situation than I am on that. That's for sure. I think all in all, though, I mean, like you said, baseball is baseball. You're gonna have games like this, even the opening day game. But I like what I see from this team, and in my opinion, I haven't even seen the full charge of them yet.
Yeah, I think what we've seen in the opening games of the season has crystallized that Luis Arraez can be a really good leadoff batter for this lineup, especially when it is healthy, and we hope it is, because he very commonly has a 6 or 7 pitch at bat, sometimes even longer, and then regardless of the outcome of that at bat, the starting pitcher, has to pitch to Donaldson. He's a patient hitter. Nelson Cruz is a patient hitter. So, you've got a chance to really run up the pitch count, even if you don't score any runs, with Arraez as a leadoff batter. I think, both catchers will hit, but right now both Jeffers and Garver are, scuffling just a little bit. Brent Rooker having a hard time with the Twins, unable to have Arraez in left field because they need him in the infield. So now we've seen Arraez and Garlick, and they haven't really done much offensively. Sano has not done much offensively other than his opposite field home run. But, when all of that does come together, and we expect it will, this lineup is really going to be productive. And the most encouraging thing, Derek, is the pitching has really been outstanding.
Well, no question about that. And before we get to that, I think – the fact that Jake Cave can go in there and, you lose a guy like Eddie Rosario, but, he can be just a guy who gets on base, and he's a tough out sometimes. He may not always get a hit, but he's a tough out sometimes.
Yeah, and Jake's been pretty valuable because the Twins needed somebody to man left field. He's been out there. He's been in center when Buxton hasn't been able to play. But he's off to a kind of a disappointing start. Couple of hits today. But, we know what Jake Cave can do. I think that, one thing that will help this team, we've got one more game in Detroit coming up tomorrow, but I think this team will really have a chance to have a good homestand, and I think it'll help some of these hitters find their swings once they can get into a routine, hopefully, with batting practice and such. We'll have day games because the Twins switched their schedule several weeks ago, so we'll have all day games again, but this team is pretty good. They're 3-2. They could be 5-0, but I expect some of the hitters who are struggling will not be struggling anymore once they get home.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm anxious they are. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to be as warm as it's been, the past couple of weeks, of course. That just, in time to get back to Minneapolis. But I'm sure they're anxious to get in their own setting. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and, it's always tough. I've always thought it was tough anyway to start the season on the road after spring training, because basically spring training, as nice as it is, you've been down there, but you're on the road, and you're sometimes taking long bus rides and all that. And it's a different routine than what you have when the regular season starts, even if you have a lot of day games when the season starts. So, the hope is that once the guys get into a regular routine, that some of the hitters will come back around. I know this, it's been proven again this year. Miguel Sano is a typically slow starter. Well, the only way he's going to break out of that is to play, and that's why he got a lot of at-bats in spring training, and that's why he's been in the lineup every day so far this year.
You mentioned it earlier, the pitching has really looked good, and so far so good. Because I think we knew that Barrios and Pineda and all these guys are going to be pretty good, but the fact that you had the other two guys, Schumacher and Happ, I thought looked pretty good today. They lost, but I mean, it's I think 1 through 5, you can't be all that disappointed.
No, and that's how regular season championships and all that are won, with a good rotation 1 through 5. And I think, as you said, we all expected Maeda to be pretty good, and he was actually off a little bit, I thought, on opening day, but got into the fifth inning. Rios didn't even give up a hit. Pineda was outstanding in 5 innings. Shoemaker really good for 6 innings, and Happ only 4 innings today. But you could, even in his misses with his pitches, you could see, what he was trying to do, and he's just not quite there yet because he got a late start because of the positive COVID thing. So starting pitching's been really good, and the bullpen's been good, and the hope is that that will sustain itself through the whole regular season, and this Twins team should be just fine.
What is your take on taking Barrios out as early as they did? I know it's your former broadcast partner, and by the way, happy birthday, Bert. But I know how he felt about it, and there's another Hall of Famer that you've worked with many times that is most notable for our 10-inning game that we all talk about, Jack Morris, and I've talked to him personally about this quite a bit. I just thought not only was it taking him out after 100 pitches is one thing, but what was it, 87 or something like that on Saturday?
Yeah, but he was not going to get 3 more innings in with a reasonable first game pitch count. And so, as sad as it was, once the pitch count got up there into the 80s, there was no way he was going to get 3 more innings in. So then once they took the lead, they wanted to turn it over to the bullpen because that's what they believe in, that they've got a bullpen that can shut things down. And that's pretty much what happened on the second game of the year. So, if it were later in the year, and I think too, if the score had been, a little more lopsided than 1-0, they would have done that. They would have left him go out at least for 1 more inning, but that's not the way it played out.
It's interesting because Jack Morris, he and I, this is way back in the Metrodome era, right? I mean, he used to sit by me in the press box, and the analogy he kind of used, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, if you're going to run a marathon, you need to run all 26.2, right? If all you're going to do is, prepare for it by running 5Ks, it ain't going to work. Now, you're talking about a guy who, Sparky hadn't pitched out there until he was dead sometimes in the 80s, but it is an interesting analogy. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but that's certainly not how baseball is being played right now.
No, and especially you notice it in spring training when Jack would tell you that, the Morrises, the Blylevens, even the Violas were trained in spring training to come out of the chute and go 9 innings. And Jack did that. He threw a no-hitter in his first start of the year against the White Sox. And that's just not the way it's done anymore. And you can argue the merits of the way it used to be or the merits of the way it is now. But there aren't too many pitchers who are trained physically in terms of their stamina to go, 8 or 9 innings in the first start of the year. What organizations want is, give me 5, 6, and we'll build you up. And, why throw innings in April that might come in handy when you get to September and October?
Yeah, it's interesting because I can't say I don't know what's right or wrong. I've found it interesting talking to people who have been there doing it. It's hard for I don't get many arguments with Jack Morris. Let's just put it that way. So,
it's just a different game now.
Yep.
And back in the day, not that long ago, if a pitcher had a no hitter for 6 innings, you had to leave him in. You felt an obligation to him and the fans and his teammates and all that. All I know is whenever it happens, whether a guy's got a no-hitter or not, when someone is as dominant as Barrios was, and they get taken out by their own manager, there's a tremendous sense of relief in the other team's dugout. We couldn't do anything against this guy for 6 innings, and now they're taking him out. We couldn't knock him out. And so there is a tremendous psychological lift, I think, to the other team when a manager comes out and makes a move like that.
It's funny you say that because I've seen how many games, even just when a guy maybe is pitching well, not a no-hitter, but he's pitching well. I was at a game, and you probably remember this. Jack McDowell owned the Twins one night, and they took him out after the 8th inning, and the Twins came back and won the game. I think it was Shane Mack. I think might have hit a grand slam to tie it. And that you're right. I mean, if a starter is dealing, man, you got to really think about taking him out. It's an interesting. It can't be a very fun thing for a manager.
No, and I think it's what's happened over the years. It used to be just the Twins, for instance, would be interested and locked in on the pitch count of their pitcher. Well, now other teams, other managers, they're quite cognizant of it too, and go, well, okay, Barrios, he's got 85 pitches, 6 innings. There's no way that we're going to, that they're going to leave him in. They're going to take him out. So then you start preparing for, the relief pitchers you might face and all of that. So it's a different game. I don't know that it's necessarily a better game, but you can't deny that it's a different game.
It's funny, Tony Russa one time, I saw him interviewed right when he went from, he was at Oakland and then went to St. Louis, and they asked him about, the double switch and all that, and which is, because they always say, the mantra used to be that it was so much tougher to manage in the National League. He goes, I like it because I know in about the 7th inning, if I don't know if I should take the pitcher out, if it's his time up in the order, I know to take him out. I put the pinch hitter, and I thought, well, that's not a bad perspective on it from a Hall of Fame manager, and I guess there is some truth to that, right?
Yeah, and I think managers who've managed in both leagues would tell you that they prefer managing in the National League more than the American League, because they're we saw it in Milwaukee, right? The game, the strategy is so much more involved. But I think we all know that that's not the direction that it's headed.
No, that's for sure. Finally, for you, Dick, just as we predicted, Kansas City 3-1, Baltimore 3-1. I mean, it is funny early in the season. We're just 2 series in, but that's what's great about the start of each and every baseball season. You just never know.
Yeah, and it's so much fun for me, at least, and I suspect a lot of other Twins fans, just to be able to watch baseball games again. And when you think of a year ago, we weren't able to watch anything because nothing was being played. But, you do get first impressions. And yeah, Oakland's 0-5. They're supposed to be pretty good, right? But they're 0-5. And maybe the surprising team in that division, the Angels, look like they're going to be perhaps a lot better than some people think. But it is so early, and we're just a handful of games into the season. It's just nice to have wins to think about, and also agonizing losses to ponder after they've happened. We've had a couple of those already, but I think this Twins team is going to be in real good shape again this year.
Well, I tell you, more than anything, I think you'll agree. Now, you've been doing these games from Target Field, but you're piping in natural sound. And me as a fan, whether I'm listening to you guys or Corey on the radio side when I'm out and about, to hear the natural crowd noise, you can really tell a difference. And it is so heartwarming. Hope springs eternal, not only for these teams that have done well that we didn't expect to, but as a fan to hear that, I'm sure that's going to give you goosebumps on Thursday too.
Yeah, and probably I'll get a little tearful too. There have been some great moments on the road, great crowd reactions on opening day in Milwaukee, and again today in Detroit when the home team gets a walk-off win. But what I have noticed more than anything else is when someone hits a foul ball and someone either made a good play or botched it in the stands and the fans react. That was one thing I didn't realize that I missed it as much as I did. Fans booing or congratulating a fan who made a nice catch. Just all the ambient sounds that are associated with baseball. And at least many of them are back again this year.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, again, tomorrow at 12 noon to wrap up that 3-game series against Detroit, and then back at Target Field, and Dick will be there live, and I just can't wait for it. Of course, we'll have that game on Thursday afternoon here on KFGO. Dick, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
You got it, Derek.
Dick Bremer again, the voice of the Minnesota Twins on the TV side for Bally Sports North, and boy, what a couple of good days of just baseball, as he mentioned, just to have Twins baseball. It was a disappointing loss today, but to be at work and be able to listen, and whether it's on my monitor, my phone with Dick there, and I usually listen to Corey and Dan, however it might go. And that's the thing. I'm just honest with you. I'm a radio guy, but I bounce back and forth quite a bit, and I'm sure a lot of people do. If you're jumping in your car, maybe picking up your kids from whatever practice or thing that they have going on, it's so nice. And if you are able to get the games actually on your cable or your streaming service, whatever it might be, it is just so good to have Twins baseball back with fans and that natural sound in the background, that's for sure. Tomorrow's game, again on the Fan, that's going to be 11:30 pregame show. 12:10 about is the first pitch with the final game of that 3-game series with the Twins and Tigers. And then it's the Twins taking on the Mariners at Target Field, the home opener coming up Thursday afternoon. 2:30 is the pregame show here on KFGO. Derek Hanson with you. That wraps up the Twins Wrap with Dick Bremer, brought to you by Jefferson Lines. This is Couch Potato Radio here on the mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO.